Well, I am back with another knife review. It's been a while since I've done a knife review, and I just picked up a couple knives and had a chance to be instructed on them by the man himself, or in this case, the men themselves. And I thought I would pass on a little bit of my knowledge about these knives to all of you. So I was out at TDI Tactical Defense Institute, which is in Southeast Ohio. Top-notch training facility for any of you even in the vicinity. There was even a guy in the class from Casper, Wyoming. So they get some people from pretty far away. And I've been there a bunch of times and just recently took one of their defensive knife classes. Very great instruction by Greg Ellifritz and John Benner. Top-notch. So John Benner has designed a couple knives, one of them being this TDI Law Enforcement Knife. And so I'm going to do this video in a couple parts. First, I'm just going to go over the knife and the construction itself, some basic stuff about it. And then I'm going to put the knife on and give you a little bit of idea of the way it's meant to function, because this knife is meant to function a little bit different than your typical knife. And then finally, I'm actually going to show you some live flesh cutting. So just to show you how effective this knife can be. So let's have a look at the knife first. This is the TDI Law Enforcement blade. It comes in 3 colors, I believe, 4 technically. Black handle, coyote handle, I think there's even an orange handle, and then there's a red trainer, which we took advantage of over the weekend. Handles are Zytel, or GRN, FRN, glass reinforced nylon, I believe. They come with a sheath here, and the sheath comes either with a belt clip like this, where you clip it over your belt, or there's one where you can loop your belt through it. This is meant to be worn on your non-dominant side, and I'll show you this a little bit, and it's primarily a defensive knife for law enforcement. If someone was going for your gun, you can get this knife and kind of fend them off with it. Weight on this knife is very light. The sheath included 5.2 ounces. The knife itself is 3 ounces, so super lightweight. The blade, it's Aussate steel, so it's going to be fairly easy to sharpen if it gets dull a little bit. Has this drop point design here. On this side, there is the TDI logo, K-bar here, and on the other side, made in Taiwan, 1480. So very, very nice knife, very easy to handle. Put in your hand here. This fits nice and right in here. There's a nice finger choil here, so that when you're cutting something, your finger is not going to go down onto that blade. They've even rounded out the bottom here, because on the earlier models, this was apparently a little bit sharper, and people were getting a little bit injured right here. So they've rounded this out now, and much nicer. But you put it in your hand, there's really no chance of your finger going up onto the blade, because there's such a big finger choil that it's not going to be a big deal. The blade is angled 15 degrees, and one of the reasons that it's like this is so that when you hold it like this, you can see that the blade goes pretty much straight with the long axis of my arm. So that if you have no knife fighting skills, you can punch with it and stab, and it pierces stuff pretty well, as I'll show you. This point here does a very good job at that. So, you know, if you don't have any other skills, you can basically use it as a punching weapon and stab. You can also slash with it, and it works great for that. So very easy to hold, very easy to handle. You can use it on both sides. You can use it regular grip, reverse grip, lots of options for this. Comes in a couple different sizes. There's a larger, longer one. I think this is about a 2.5-inch blade, if I remember correct. And then it comes in serrated and non-serrated. So I'll go ahead and put it on for you, give you a little bit of a look, and show you how that works. Alright, so let's have a look at this knife with it on and show you just how it's supposed to function. So it is supposed to be worn on the non-dominant side, forward of center. So generally in this region here. So if you're a cop or whoever, you're wearing a gun, usually I wear my gun concealed, but for the sake of the video, my gun is out in the open just so I can give you an idea. So you've got your gun on, you've got this knife here, and someone goes for your gun. Someone reaches for your gun, they go for it, and so you take your right hand, you've got your hand clamped down on that gun, trying to hold their hand, trying to prevent them from getting your gun. So this right hand is now tied up, trying to save you from getting shot with your own gun. But you've got your left hand free. Well, what do you do with your left hand? Well, you could certainly try and, get their hand off. You could punch them in the face, you could, the groin, lots of options for that. What if, most people carry their folder in their dominant side, you could get your folder out here with your left hand. You could get it open. You could start stabbing them with it. Some options there, but several problems with that scenario. First of all, trying to get your folder out with your non-dominant hand, get it open, and then start doing something with it under stress is, I've tried it, darn near impossible. I mean, I can get it out even under stress with your dominant hand. It's hard. And aside from the fact that the other guy is going here, he's going to see you going for that knife and is going to realize that if you get it out and get it open, it's going to be a bad day for him. So he's going to stop you from doing that. So what do? That's where the beauty of this knife comes in. Because your right hand is tied up, you basically grab this knife and it's out, and it's that quick. And then you can stab for their groin, you can stab for their neck, their abdomen, go for their groin and do some coring cuts. I mean, plenty of options. You can go for their forearm there, try and cut those tendons, try and stab into it. And again, you can see that the knife goes straight with the long axis of my arm, so you can just kind of stab into place just like a normal punch. And plenty of options, slicing, stabbing. And once you get them in a couple of places, they're probably going to let go of your gun, and then maybe you can get a couple steps back, draw your gun, and do what you need to do. Alternatively, what if your left hand is tied up with something? What if your left hand is tied up trying to get something on the guy, you're trying to fit him off with your left hand, your right hand's free now, and maybe you don't have a gun, or maybe for whatever reason your gun you can't get to it. That's where you can get to this knife with your right hand. You get it out, now you've got a reverse grip on it, and you can do pretty much all that same stuff. Go for the groin, go for the neck, go for the stomach, start slashing with it. Again, plenty of options. So the knife is ambidextrous, and it's great on both sides. And it's so quick to get it out that, as John Benner points out, the fastest person getting a folder out and deploying it is going to be slower than the slowest person getting this knife out. So it's a beautiful, beautiful knife for that option. The way you want to draw it is basically you want to get your hand in here as far up into that choil as you can. When you draw it out, you've got your hand right up in there, and then you can do what you need with it. So beautifully designed knife. Just a great design that John did on this. So let's have a look at this knife in action, and I'll show you just how well it works. Alright, not for the faint of heart here. This is a spoiled deer, and it's strung up out at TDI for us to practice cutting on. And this is going to show you just how well this knife will do cutting and slashing at flesh. So you had it strung up, and you can see just slashing at bare flesh, it kind of simulates it, and it goes in deep. So if you had to cut an attacker's arm with it or wherever, it's going to go in deep. It's going to do some serious damage to that flesh. So here's an example of stabbing ribs. If you had to stab someone in the chest while they were attacking you, this blade is going to go right through the ribs. You get it right between them. Maybe a little different if you hit the bone itself, but you get between them, it's not going to have any problem. So now let's have a look at what happens with clothing, because clothing is a different deal when you're trying to defend yourself, because even just a slight t-shirt will affect the way the knife goes through it with a slashing type motion. So if you've got someone with clothes, it's better just to stab at it, because a stab is really going to go through almost any type of clothing. Different types of materials are going to frustrate a knife. As you can see though, this is going to go through both sides without any problem. Now you can also, once you get in there, if you want to do a little bit more damage in your self-defense, you can do some coring cuts and some comma cuts, things like that, to create a little bit more damage, hopefully get the person away from you. Now something else you can do is you can slash at it. The problem with slashing is that it's very unpredictable, like I said. So here, you can see it went through the pants and it went into the fabric. Problem is, different people, even using the same technique, may not have the same results because it's just so unpredictable with fabric. Even just with a t-shirt it could be. So something to be careful of when you're trying to defend yourself with someone that has clothes. A stabbing type movement is going to be better. So how about this? This is just a light jacket with a little bit of insulation, and when you slash at it, it'll go through the jacket, but you can see here it didn't make nearly as deep of a cut because that little bit of insulation affected it a lot more than those pants did. And this is just a light jacket, so You get something heavier and you're going to tend to probably frustrate the knife and it's going to be difficult. So again, something to consider. Well, there you have it, the K-Bar TDI Law Enforcement Knife designed by John Benner out at TDI. They do a fabulous job with their training out there, so if you're in the vicinity, get out there. Even if you're not in the vicinity, get on a plane and get out there for some training, because they do a great job with their classes, with their defensive knife class with Greg Elfritz and company. And pick up one of these knives, because you get into a tussle with someone, it may just save your life someday.